L.DK begins by introducing us to Kageyama Shusei, a teenage boy who is very popular at his school. But even though many girls admire him and wish to be his girlfriend, Shusei doesn't really care about them. One of the girls who have a crush on Shusei is Moe. But unlike the other girls who could only scream hysterically when he showed up, Moe intended to express her feelings to him. She had even told her plan to her best friend, Aoi, who supported her wholeheartedly. But unfortunately, when Moe confesses her feelings to Shusei in front of the students, he coldly rejects her. She was undoubtedly very embarrassed by the rejection. And the students laughed at her instead of comforting her. Angered to see her friend humiliated, Aoi went to Shusei and scolded him. But instead of apologizing, he teases her because he thinks she also wants to confess her feelings to him. She was even more furious at the baseless accusations. She reflexively kicked him, causing him to fall down the stairs and sprain his leg. As a result, she had to carry him home. She felt guilty for hurting him, after all. But to her surprise, it turns out that Shusei lives in the same apartment building as Aoi. Not only that, their rooms are even opposite each other. She only found out about this fact because he had just moved there not too long ago. Anyways, after she escorted him to his room, Shusei asked Aoi to make some food for him, telling her that his legs still hurt from walking. So, having no other choice, she reluctantly complied. When Aoi was just starting to cook, Shusei approached her from behind, startling her. His behavior caused her to lose focus, so she poured too much sake oil into the food she was cooking. Needless to say, it ignited a fire that soared from the pan, activating the fire detector. And it didn't take long before the water started pouring down profusely, making Shusei's room completely wet. As a result, Shusei had to change rooms while his room was repaired. But since there are currently no vacant rooms, Aoi is forced to let him stay in her room for a while. However, she felt a little responsible for the incident. Despite this, she was actually very annoyed with him, especially since he behaved so casually when he was in her room. He even only wore underwear when he finished taking a shower. The next day at school, Aoi hears about a pair of students who secretly live under the same roof has been expelled from school. The news scares her, so she tries to avoid Shusei at school. She didn't want others to know that they were living together, and minimizing contact with each other would minimize the risk of people finding out about their situation. But that plan was ruined instantly after Aoi bumped into Shusei in the school hallway. He even gave her the key to the room she had left behind right in front of her friends, including Moe. Panicked, Aoi immediately drags him out of the way of her friends before telling him that she doesn't want others to know that they live together. Let it remain their secret. Moe was a little jealous when she saw Aoi and Shusei acting close. And moreover, why did Shusei bring Aoi's room key? After telling Shusei, Aoi returns to Moe and the others, informing them that she accidentally dropped her room key, and then he finds it to return the key to her, that's all. But of course, Moe did not necessarily believe that explanation. After school, Aoi posted the rules regarding what Shusei could and couldn't do on the room's wall. But just as she finished working on it, he came home with a friend, Sato, forcing her to hide. He noticed that she was hiding under the blanket, but he purposely sat on her and tickled her feet. Obviously, that pissed her off, so she got up from under the covers when she got the chance, intending to leave the room while Sato was on the balcony. Sato notices her presence, but luckily, he believes when she claims she is Shusei's neighbor. The next day, the landlady invites Aoi and Shusei to attend a barbecue party that will be held next week. She allowed them to invite their friends if they wanted. Hearing that, Aoi planned to take Moe along. Incidentally, a few moments later, Moe came to the apartment. Although, she came at the wrong time because Aoi was standing beside Shusei. Moe is dumbfounded to see the two of them together, and Aoi frantically tries to explain what really happened between them. Ultimately, she convinced Moe that Shusei had just moved into the apartment building. But she didn't tell Moe that they lived together. A week had passed since then, and they were now attending a barbecue. Shusei brought his brother, Soju, and Sato, while Aoi brought Moe with her. Here, Aoi plans to tell Moe the truth about Shusei. But before she could say it, their attention was drawn to a woman who suddenly came up to them all. It turns out that she is Satsuki, Shusei's childhood friend and ex-girlfriend. The atmosphere inevitably became awkward, especially since she was cold to Aoi. Regardless, Aoi and Moe got to know Sato better at the party and even acted like close friends when the party ended in the afternoon. But then, Satsuki approached Aoi while she was alone packing things into the car. She notices that Aoi is close to Shusei and doesn't like that. So, she warns Aoi not to fall in love with him because it will only waste her time. No matter how she tries, Shusei will only love Satsuki. In response, Aoi tells Satsuki that she has no feelings for Shusei. Therefore, Satsuki needn't worry. But, as if not believing her words, Satsuki just looked at her with scornful eyes before walking away. A few days later, the kind landlady gave Aoi 2 amusement park tickets, who immediately planned to take Moe with her. But suddenly, Shusei snatched a ticket from her hands, saying that he would accompany her to the amusement park. After school, Aoi is seen waiting for Shusei at the amusement park, wondering why she can't refuse him, even though she hates him. And speaking of the devil, he came a few moments later and dragged her to try some rides at the amusement park. But unexpectedly, she really enjoyed the time she spent with him. After playing, they choose to relax at the cafe, where Aoi sees a poster for the fireworks festival that will be held next week. She wanted to go to the event. Moreover, it was said that the couple who kissed when the 7 fireworks were lit would be blessed. Unfortunately, she still doesn't have a man she can take there with, let alone a boyfriend. Hearing that, Shusei offered to go with her to the festival, as he thought it would be interesting. The next day, Aoi finally decides to tell Moe about her feelings for Shusei. She apologizes to Moe because, although she hated him at first, she has fallen in love with him now. She knew Moe liked him first, and she knew that her confession would hurt her. But still, she prefers to be honest with Moe rather than hide her feelings. Hearing the shocking confession, Moe couldn't hide her disappointment. But in the end, she admits she has no chance with Shusei. He had rejected her, after all. And more importantly, she still wants to be friends with Aoi. So, she gave her blessing to her while promising that she would support Aoi so that she could be with him. On the way home after school, Aoi and Shusei passed in front of a jewelry store that displayed necklaces in the front window. She wanted the necklace but didn't have the money to buy it. Maybe right now, she was hoping Shusei would buy it for her. Unfortunately, he just stood there quietly before leaving. When they arrived at the apartment, they found Satsuki already standing waiting in front of their room. But Shusei didn't care about her at all. He walked past her and then entered the room. Satsuki is clearly unhappy that Shusei lives in the same room as Aoi. She again warns Aoi, saying it would be a waste if she loved him because he has a secret that only Satsuki knows, and that's why they can't be separated. Aoi is clearly annoyed at Satsuki, who still dares to threaten her despite her long breakup with Shusei. But Aoi just kept quiet in front of her. The next day after school, Aoi meets Shusei's older brother, Soju, who tells her about their family's dismal condition. It turns out that Shusei has always lacked affection from his family, and that's why he always acts cold towards people. Only Satsuki, his childhood friend, always gives him attention even after he grows up. But then, Soju stopped his story and kissed Aoi. Needless to say, she was shocked and angered by his action because it was her first kiss. Soju's lecherous behavior finally reached Shusei's ears. He immediately went to his brother at work to beat him. After that, Shusei met Aoi, who was crying alone in a park. He asked her to stop being naive because it makes people easy to fool her. Eventually, he managed to calm her down. They even had fun and laughed together there. As the days go by, Aoi's love for Shusei grows to the point that she changes her appearance and cuts her hair to impress him. Not only that, but she prepared lunch for him when he started working part-time at a restaurant. Even so, they still keep their distance from each other at school. But one day, Satsuki suddenly called Shusei, and whatever she said made him uneasy. Then, without explaining anything to Aoi, he went to meet Satsuki. But despite his attitude, Aoi kept waiting for him until her phone finally rang. Thinking it was a call from Shusei, she immediately picked it up without checking the number. But she was wrong. It was a call from Satsuki, telling her she would have fun with Shusei tonight. Of course, her words made Aoi both sad and angry. A fight was inevitable when Shusei came home. Because of that, he decided to leave the apartment. But still, Aoi wants to know what really happened between Shusei and Satsuki. So, she chased after him in the pouring rain, demanding an explanation. But he remained silent. He left her feeling confused. The next day at school, Aoi is surprised to see that Moe is dating Sato. But during their excitement, they realized that Aoi was not as usual. She looked gloomy, and Sato thought it had something to do with Shusei. Feeling sorry for her, Sato then tells her about the problems that happened to Shusei and Satsuki 2 years ago. At that time, Shusei and Satsuki often quarreled, and they even bickered in front of Sato. Even so, they still try to maintain their relationship. But on Christmas Eve, he suddenly becomes uninterested in her. He didn't even want to see her anymore. Of course, that pissed Satsuki off. She kept calling Shusei, and when he finally picked up his phone, she told him she was tired of everything. She intends to end it all. Feeling guilty, Shusei looked for Satsuki, who he later found was already unconscious. Her life was finally saved after being rushed to the hospital, but he couldn't shake off the guilt he felt for her. He even still feels guilty towards her to this day. After listening to Sato's story, Aoi decided to go home, and it was when she arrived at her apartment door, she found a small pouch on the doorknob. To her surprise, it turned out it was the necklace she wanted. She knew no one else could give her that other than Shusei, and knowing that fact brought her to tears. Days passed, and Shusei kept himself busy with his part-time job. Until one day, Soju meets him to give him a piece of his mind. In Soju's eyes, Satsuki had been fooling him all along. She just made him a doll she could play with as she pleased. Soju wants him to no longer feel guilty about what happened to Satsuki in the past. Soju will take care of his problems with Satsuki as long as Shusei keeps fighting for his true love. At the same time, Aoi is seen packing Shusei's belongings before she looks at the necklace he gave her. A few days later, Aoi plans to go to the fireworks festival with Moe and Sato. But when the bus came, they told Aoi to go first, while they would catch up with her on a motorbike. But they actually lied about it. In fact, they went to Shusei to inform him that Aoi was currently at the fireworks festival and that he needed to get there soon. They told him that the necklace he gave her hurt Aoi's feelings because, after all, she still didn't know how he felt about her. And so, Shusei went to the festival location on Sato's motorbike. He realizes his feelings for Aoi are true along the way there. He just couldn't let go of the past. At the end of the film, Shusei finally meets Aoi, and the first thing he does is apologize to her. It just so happened that fireworks had lit up in the sky, and he naturally didn't want to waste this moment. He kissed her and then confessed his feelings to her. And the film ends with Shusei putting the necklace on Aoi. So, is your high school romance as dramatic as the story of Aoi and Shusei? Or maybe you can't forget your sweetheart during high school, even though they are married to someone else. Hey, if there's one message we can take from this film, it's that we must let go of the past.